Drums keep pounding a rhythm to the brain. La-da-da-da-dee. Da-da-da-da-da.
What's going on, guys? Of course, I am having issues as per usual. So we're finally back. It has been quite a bit of a time since we did our last live stream. It'd be a couple of months now, I would say, a good 2 months. A lot of reasoning behind that, being pretty busy with work, and I'm actually just coming off of a bit of man flu. So apologies if you hear any sniffles during the stream and stuff. Hopefully this is all working. Of course, I haven't plugged in my microphone and stuff either. All right, just going to fix that up as well. Just 1 second, guys. Classic Mitch on the mic. Let's see here. Microphone. Hopefully you can hear me a bit better now, with any luck. All right, so we are back. Still teething issues, as per usual. Look, nothing's changed there. That is one thing that will probably never change with a Mitch on the mic, and it's a Mitch on the mic guarantee. Will chuck me up a bit bigger. Too big. Way too big. There we go. Now we're looking good. Alrighty. Been a bit of a workout to try and get everything running today. And once again, hopefully you can all hear me all right. My laptop decides just to not work at all once again. So I'm borrowing my partner Haley's laptop again. So big ups to Haley for letting me use this begrudgingly. But we got a couple of things to run through today. A couple of pretty big events that have happened in the last few months. Queensland 10 scale titles, Queensland 8 scale titles, and also a bit of on-road with the TFTR Masters. We're going to be running through that in the next sort of half an hour, 45 minutes. After that as well, we're actually going to have a couple of probably big names within Australia that's going to help us with a couple of the recent announcements that have come out pretty much in the last sort of 48 2 to 3 days at least. So we're going to have Clive Silver on, as well as Peter Cooper, the president of Hills RC. So they're going to be running through roughly, how things are going to happen, with the world's and all that side of things. But we're going to talk about that a little bit later. We'll get them on board and we'll get them in for a chat as well. So not completely by myself the entire thing today. Nonetheless, we'll kick things off with probably just a big thank you to, first of all, everyone that's watching, everyone that's going to watch, everyone that's watched past streams and all that sort of things. Recently cracked 900 followers on Facebook, which was something that I probably wouldn't have imagined all that long ago. And to make it to that is, it's pretty big for me, to, I guess, be on this sort of roller coaster journey together. Definitely been a lot of ups and a lot of downs to it. It's a lot of hard work, but that's for sure. The race calling sort of thing, I absolutely love. The live streaming side of things is something that's new to me, obviously. But big thank you to everyone that's sort of joined in on that and joining in live or going to catch up on this later. All right, let's kick off with results and that sort of things. Now, hopefully, if all comes together, I'm actually going to be able to display a few things on the screen, trying to get a little bit more tech savvy with StreamYards, which is a platform I use. So first event off the rank would have been our Queensland Titles 10 scale, which was meant to be the 10 scale titles for last year. Now, once again, hopefully this is working. And we'll start off with a bit of stock junior buggy. Now, the Queensland 10 scale titles is held up at Valley RC Raceway up at Sunshine Coast. It's actually one of my favorite tracks to drive on, by far. The grip level it provides usually is that sort of low to medium, depending on, what's happened in the lead up to the event. Sometimes if you get a bit of rain before the event, the track can groove up really nice. Alternatively, if it's really dry, the track can just be this loose, sandy, sort of silty, low grip track, and that's what I love about it. You can have that sort of real variation of grip levels. We got somewhat lucky in the way that we had a fair bit of rain leading up to the event. they actually got quite a lot of rain, and it was somewhat in doubt once again if we would actually be able to run the event. But the club and committee there always doing a stand-up job to try and make sure the event runs smoothly, sorted the track out, made sure it was all, raceable, that sort of side of things. Tour drive day was tough. There's no doubt tour drive day was low grip. A lot of drivers really struggling to switch their tires on, switch their cars on, get a setup that's working real well. And that was sort of shown by the lap time differences. You'll see lap times with tour drive and four drive being literally like 4 seconds different, which is sizable on a, relatively, I guess, medium-sized track. So juniors, once again, numbers weren't massive for the state titles, 10 scale state titles, in opposed to what the 8 scale state titles were for this year, which was a bit of a surprise with this being a world year. And we're going to cover that a lot more later on when we talk to Clive and Peter. Being that this was an event for points, being the 23 and 24 seasons combined with points, it was a bit of a surprise to see somewhat low numbers for this event. Now, with that, the skill level was still there, probably not quite as high as what we've seen from previous Queensland titles, but nonetheless, we had a lot of up-and-coming talent and a lot of stock drivers making that move to mod, which we have been expecting to sort of see over the last few months, I'd say, in preparation to hopefully qualify for the world titles. Now, with that, go on to juniors. We'll start off with juniors. We'll head over to stock, stadium truck, and then head over to mod, which is qualify for the worlds. William Johnson, once again, William has been driving exceptional lately, especially out of charges. Had a really good run all throughout the weekend. Ended up winning the first 2 mains, and I'm pretty sure decided to run the last race. I think he pulled off to let everyone sort of go, and then decided to have a bit of a fun race, I guess, with all the other juniors. A junior had a really good weekend, actually running the rear motored buggies. That was really cool to see, a bit of vintage action going on from a junior. Really good run as well. Definitely a lot better than the last time I saw a junior drive. And Tyler Connor was a name that sort of somewhat surprised me all throughout the weekend. That Tyler's a real good up-and-coming driver, in my opinion. Definitely has his struggles when it comes to two-wheel drive, four-wheel drive. You could see there's a lot more sort of skill going on there, and short course it seemed to come alive. And we'll talk a bit more about that when we get to the four-wheel drive section. So that's the junior results. William taking that one out, a junior and 2, and Tyler Connor coming up 3rd. Jackson Stevens and Robbie Maycock. I think Robbie. So bit of understanding when it comes to Robbie. So Robbie actually got sick when it came to the racing. He ran his first race, and then I think he was so ill that he passed out in a car, or in his father's car, and just slept for the rest of the day. That's how rough he was feeling. And this is on a 40-degree day, so being outside in the hot sun isn't that much fun when you're sick, as I would well know. Let's see. We'll move on to a stadium truck. So the first part of this, the first probably half an hour, this is going to be a little bit, I guess, boring, for drivers that weren't at these events. But, sort of stick with me. By all means, ask any questions you have as we go through this as well. I can always divert topics just a little bit as we go through. Stadium truck. We had a good couple of participants in this. It was probably one of the stronger fields I've seen for stadium truck for quite a while. For state titles that had such low numbers, to see such strong numbers in the stadium truck, it was really good to see. And it shows that short course and stadium truck is still a really strong class within Queensland, at least. I know it's sort of in pockets elsewhere, but in Queensland, stadium truck and short course seem to still be going strong, which is good because Chargers RC is holding a truck-only event coming up in a few months' time. I believe it's in... I won't give you a date because I'll get it wrong. But yeah, keep an eye out for that. Any truckers, short course, stadium truck. I think they have a outlaw class as well. Bring your old short course out, a run for fun class, Traxxas, that sort of side of things. That's all coming up at Chargers. So we do have plenty of truckers in Queensland, at least. it'd be good to see a couple of interstate drivers make their way up for it. What will be a really fun event. It's going to be two different sort of virtually two events over 2 days with points combined between the two of them. And a lot more of the information will come out if it hasn't already come out in the coming time. For Stadium Truck, though, Gopes was real strong when it came to Stadium Truck. Had a rough A2, but bring it back in A3. So it did come down to a decider between Dimitri and Gopes. Dimitri was also a strong competitor this weekend as well. He was also helping out with scrutineering as well. And anyone that's sort of done a committee job and had to try and race at the same time, you understand that quite often you're working in your car and the last side of things takes a back seat to your main job, which will end up being scrutineering. So Dimitri was helping us out throughout the weekend. I know there was a lot of other people, and I'll probably miss one or two here and there as well. But nonetheless, Dimitri was helping us out through the weekend, so big ups to him, but also jumping on track and having a run as well. And Stephen Smith coming in P3. Geno coming in P4, which was a strong run as well, and Jason Walker rounding out top 5. Dom just on the outside of that. So big ups to Dom as well from Hybrid Landscapes. Okay, so to the other classes now for two-wheel drive stock buggy, if I can hopefully get this drawing. So two-wheel drive stock. Once again, Gopes having a good, strong run. Probably far and away one of the strongest stock drivers within Australia at the moment. JP, though. JP put it to him pretty much the entire weekend, which was something I was a bit surprised about, I'd say. JP is always pretty quick there or thereabouts, but he was right on the tail of Gopes throughout the weekend, which was really good to see. And Paul Mason, good old man Paul Mason. Got to admit, I thought Paul would have been a little bit quicker. I'm not going to lie, and I have a lot of banter between me and Paul, and he'll probably want to punch me for this, but nonetheless, Paul probably should have been a bit quicker. Definitely has some speed there, but at the same time hasn't driven too much 10 scale recently, so we'll let him off for that one just a little bit, not too much. But yeah, Paul Mason, pick up your act. Jello Spencer again coming in at P4, missing out on a second podium. Geno now switching over to the Schumacher cars as well. Car looking good on track. So it's good to see Geno trying something different. And Luke coming home in P5. Over to Premier class for the two-wheel drive. Of course, I messed it up. Of course, I did. Typical. All right, so press the wrong button. We will get there. It has been a big day. Okay, where are we? There we go. Two-wheel drive modified buggy. So young Eggleton recently crowned the two-wheel drive stock national champion over in Perth. Comes to modified for the Queensland titles and actually pretty much dominates the two-wheel drive portion. Slightly different story when it came to four-wheel drive, but two-wheel drive seems to be a real strong point for young Eggleton, and I think we'll sort of see that progress over time. Once again, it wasn't a huge amount of entries, but it's not saying the skill level wasn't there. Matthew Lawrence is a very quick driver, very competitive driver within, I'd say, Queensland and also would be nationally. So young Eggleton got the better of Matthew for the weekend. And we had Rob Maycock coming home in third. And so once again, there's a couple of stock drivers there, mainly being Eggleton and Maycock moving up to the modified classes to try to qualify for the world titles. Now, we'll see that quite a bit more, I'd say, throughout this year, as mentioned. And like I said before, we're going to have a chat to Clive a little bit later on how the points work for worlds and run through all that. But yeah, Dimitri, once again, coming home in P4. Tony Watson having a decent run in P5. And Jason Dom, Ben having, I'd say, a pretty mediocre run for probably what he had hoped. But once again, it's a very different track to what pretty much every track around, I'd say, the rest of Australia is. So trying to get the setup for this track when a lot of the local guys, when I say local, majority of the drivers were probably from Gold Coast, Brisbane sort of way, and it's probably a good 2 hours for most drivers to get there. But a lot of the local-ish guys probably had a bit more setup knowledge when it comes to the what to expect from the low grip track. Probably had been there a couple more times at least. Ben also had to fly on home when it came to forward drive day. Would have been good to see him there on forward drive day. Nonetheless, we're going to keep on pushing through here. So forward drive day, following day after that, the two-wheel drive was actually hampered by the rain that came through on Friday. Where are we? So we had a bit of a delay when it came to two-wheel drive day. Forward drive day, luckily the track was already pretty much prime and ready to go for forward drive racing. That's not the one I want. And down here. Alrighty. So start up with short course. Only 3 classes to go. Short course dominated by the Dominator. Dominic Blackman had a really good run actually. His truck looked really good throughout the weekend. Just decent driving pretty much all around from Dom. Once again, not a massive field from short course, but there or thereabouts. Tony Watson coming home in second. Tony's a good driver as well, so Dom to get in front of Tony, probably, pretty good result for him. And Rowan Cena coming home in P3. Tyler Connor actually running a Traxxas. That was an interesting talking point throughout the weekend as well. Wasn't quite a legal car by any means, but his driving actually managed to win A1 with a Traxxas. The truck definitely suited the track a lot better than I think a lot of everyone expected. But we're looking forward to seeing him have a better run at the Queensland Titles and Chargers in a couple of months' time. So we'll make sure that all his cars and stuff are all sweet, and he can have another good run there. So that's short course. We'll move on to four-wheel drive stock. So once again, Gopes just having another really good run. Managing to win A1 and A2 for forward drive. JP having, once again, 2 seconds in the first 2 races. Had a really good run. Was trying to at least keep close to Gopes. Probably not quite as close in forward drive than what he was in two-wheel drive, but nonetheless was probably a lot closer than what I had expected. JP was real quick all weekend. Luke managed to actually come through for A3 and win A3, which ended up putting him above on the podium than JP. So bit of a trophy snatch there from Luke. Had a good run in A3 and just taking that last win. Over to modified. So modified being the premier class for Sunday. Now, I think a driver that sort of did surprise me in some ways, but also wasn't overly surprising another way coming out on top for this class. Now, four-wheel drive mod was still a strong class considering the low numbers, and the competition was real quick and real consistent, as well as being tied all the way through. But young Super Cooper Nitsky came through with a win. So he had a rough A1, came home in 7th, but A2 and A3 bring it home real strong. And I actually had a quick drive of Coop's car after the titles ended, and that thing was absolutely lightning. Like, it was hard to put a foot wrong, and I honestly think that it could have gone a lot quicker if Coop really wanted to push it a little bit harder. So Coop had a really good run in A2, A3, managing to secure the top spot. Rob Maycock coming home in P2, and Mini Egg coming home in P3. So it was pretty tight between 3rd, 4th, and even all the way down to 5th, as well as 6th as well. Cosy getting a second in the last run helped his sort of points out quite a lot. But young Eggleton, once again, not quite as consistent, I would say, in the four-wheel drive than what he was in a two-wheel drive. And I think that's one place where we'll sort of mature over time and get used to the sort of the power of a four-wheel drive. It's a really different beast. Now, I think probably one of the big talking points coming away from the Queensland titles, the Queensland's 10-scale titles, was the fact that probably more stock drivers running mod than was sort of anticipated in some ways. The lower numbers than usual, the rain going into the weekend, but the track itself coming up on Sunday, that was probably one of the biggest talking points, at least coming towards the end of Sunday. The track is probably the best I'd ever seen the Sunny Coast track come Sunday afternoon. The crew once again did an awesome job to allow us to even be able to race throughout the weekend. We had to be careful with marshals early Saturday, but the racing on Sunday was really, really good. The groove was awesome, that sort of side of things. Anyway. So yeah, Queensland titles, the RCRA Queensland 10 scale titles. That's a result of that one. Really good weekend. Big ups to the committee for that as well. Okay, so we will stop screen on that one and we'll head over to a bit of on-road now. So early in this year, I went down to, let's see, not that one, it'll be that one. Went down south for a bit of on-road racing, and I've been calling a couple of these events now a bit more on-road racing than I'd say off-road in some ways as of recently. I'm actually really enjoying the on-road racing. Very different to what I'm used to when it comes to the off-road side of things. I also find it really enjoyable to call the racing for it. Some of the battles are just really good. I can hear Zoe squeaking a toy in the background. Anyway, so over to the TFTR Masters. We had a really good weekend down there. I'll talk a bit about the track as we go through this as well. So the TFTR Masters, they used it also as like a nationals warm-up. It's a different event to what a usual nationals warm-up would be. Usually a national warm-ups, you virtually run it as like a state titles or just like a trophy race in the lead up to your nationals with the same, I guess, layout. The, you know, qualifying being roughly about the same amount of rounds, with finals being about the same amount of rounds as well. For the TFTR Masters, they run that as a real different event. It's virtually run over two different events for the reason you can't run four final, you know, racing, whereas you have to set it up as four qualifiers. So if you're having a look at the results online, you have to look at the Sunday results, and it virtually is qualifying and done by points. So we'll brush through this really quickly. 12 scale modified open. 12 scale is recently at least been a class where you don't see massive numbers. But, you know, the skill level at the top, you know, top 2 to top 3 is usually very quick. Brian Stewart taking stock for 12 scale. Brian's been real quick lately. Ryan Withers surprised me when it came to his driving all around throughout the weekend. 12 scale mod. Ricky Vakale, very quick in the 12 scale mod. Carter Sims. I've never seen Carter drive before, but I've heard a lot about him driving. Obviously, you know, has a lot to do with Berserk RC, that sort of side of things, and Andy Cook. And let's go future champion 21.5. So I only had 3 drivers for this. We'll see a fair few more when it comes to the nationals in a few months' time. And once again, hopefully I will be down there to call that event. Really looking forward to getting back down there to the TFTR, to the on-road nationals. I believe that's in November. So yeah, 3 drivers for the juniors. We'll see a lot more come the nationals. Jack Cooper, Ty Moylan, and Ben Wilson. Good racing. I get like between Jack Cooper and Ty Moylan. Ben Wilson didn't get much qualifying. I don't think he had any qualifying in. So it made it pretty difficult to learn everything on the fly from there. But it wasn't too far off when it came to the 3rd and 4th finals. Was picking up the pace as we went through the weekend. Okay. We're just going to go through the A heats. So 21.5, Glenn Wilson having a good run. So Club Prezi down there. It was close between Glenn Wilson, Budgie, and Cheng Ling. They all had really good runs throughout the weekend. Their qualifying pace was real similar. So it was good to see battles between them. And with this track, and this is one thing I really noticed come the TFTR Masters, and I think will be really like potent when it comes to the nationals for being held at TFTR. At Templesowe. The track is a real qualifying, like, you know, essential track. There is very little overtaking when it comes to the actual layout. I'm not sure if they're going to do a layout change. I know that they have the ability to do different layouts and stuff there, but the actual layout itself is really tough to overtake on, at least the current layout, the one they ran the TFTR Masters on. Like I said, it'd be interesting to know if they are going to change the layout come the Nationals, whether they're able to, that sort of side of things. But qualifying was so important when it came to final results because overtaking was so tough there that unless the leader made a mistake, it was hard to get past them. So it was a really interesting sort of almost freight train until a driver made a mistake or a driver behind forced the issue. So yeah, over to 21.5, Glenn Wilson, Club Prezi, taking the top spot from that. Andrew Budge in the 2 spot. Andrew having a really cool paint scheme. I really like that paint scheme throughout the weekend. And Cheng Ling coming home in P3. Logan L in 4, and Logan having a good run as well. So there was like 3 strong heats of 21.5 for this event. I'd say it might even be bigger come the Nationals. Was well over 100 entries, I believe, for the TFTR Masters. We should be able to see a fair few more than that come the Nationals, which would be great. Okay, so back over. So 13.5, Lincoln Cod. Now, probably one of the strongest up-and-coming drivers I've seen in the on-road scene. I believe I remember seeing him at the Wayland Nationals and thinking, okay, he's a strong driver, not quite there yet, but definitely has potential come the future. For this event, he was right on it. Every qualifier, he was close there or thereabouts. I think he ended up starting off seeding into virtually the Bs. And from there, he pretty much had flawless runs from the Bs. Got the advantage of having no drivers in front of him. Didn't have to work his way through traffic until probably closer to the end of the heat. So got really lucky with that sort of side of things. Once we seeded back into the A and was quick enough that he was near the front pretty much every time. Had really good runs. So he got a 1-1 and a 1, taking him to the top spot. So really, really strong results from Lincoln Cod, and definitely a bit of a surprise throughout the weekend. Marcus Askell, a really strong driver. Pretty sure hails from the UK from what I can recall. So he had a good weekend. It probably was a bit of a surprise I'd say, to see Lincoln Cod being as quick as what he was. Michael Stone as well. Really good weekend for him. I think he probably was looking for better results. I think he qualified a fair way down the order, if I remember rightly. I'd have to double check that. Nonetheless, good result for those 3 driver. Alendro had a really good, I think, 4th and final race. 3rd and a 2nd for the last 2 races. That's what put him right up the order. So he got pretty lucky in the last 2 races to score really good points, popping him right up. Scotty Rawlings got really unlucky. I remember one race as well. Was leading the race for the first, pretty much, I'd say, first 2 to 3 minutes. Came to the end, got closed in on, I think, by either Lincoln Cod or Marcus Askell. I think got tangled, and Scotty Rawlings ended up getting a body tuck. So pretty rough there from Scotty Rawlings. I think he was probably roughly out where he was expected to be, but I think he had potential as well to be a little bit quicker. So it'll be interesting to see how he progresses come the Nationals. Scotty's never slow as well. It was really good to see Scotty back at the track for probably the first time since, I'd say, AOC, so Asian On-Road Championships, would have been about 2019, pre-COVID, I would say. So it's good to see Scotty as well. Over to, let's see, modified. So really, really strong field of modified drivers for the TFTR Masters. A lot of drivers trying to get their information for the Nationals coming up. Now, like I said before, qualifying was so important when it came to final results, and this was one class that really showed it probably more than anything else. Quick drink. By the way, some specky bottles at the moment. So yeah, qualifying was so important when it came to final results for the reason, like I said before, overtaking was such a challenge that you could have a driver in front of you that was, possibly up to half a second slower, and overtaking them was almost an impossible task. As long as I hanged on the racing line, it was very, very challenging. So Jeff Mackey qualified really, really strong. I don't think was probably the quickest driver in the field, but we've seen it in the past, and we saw it at the Wayland Nationals last year, that Jeff's racing lines, when he is under pressure, is impeccable. Like, can hold up 5-6 drivers with no issue at all, and just cruise himself home to a win like there's no one around him. So Jeff had a really strong qualifying, put himself in the top spot, and really good run through the races, managing to fend off some real hard charging other drivers. Jordan Isgen was really quick through the races. Simon Nicholson as well, starting all the way down the order, managing to work his way straight through the pack almost every single race, get to the back of Jeff Mackey, I think the first 2 races, within maybe 2 laps from, a second and a half down, but just couldn't get those passes. They're just really challenging to pass, no matter how quick you were on that track compared to the car in front of you. So it's really interesting to see that sort of dynamic where you had a quicker driver behind, maybe a slightly slower driver in front, but as long as they held the racing line, that was sweet. So we'll see how that evolves, I guess, come the Nationals. But I would say that once again, almost no matter which track layout I could see there, it probably produced quite a similar result, because it is quite a fast layout, a technical layout, but at the same time, it's just overall not easy to make a set up a pass, I'd say. Usually, like the corner's a left-hander into another left-hander, so you try to set yourself up for the next corner, it just doesn't quite work out. But it makes racing interesting as well. So we'll have big freight trains when it comes to the racing. So once again, Jeff Mackey having a really strong qualifying, having good, strong races as well, setting no foot wrong virtually throughout the first 3 mains. Ended up second, I think, in the last main. Jordan Isgen having a couple of rough starts to the first couple of mains. I wouldn't go all the way to saying getting taken out, but definitely wasn't the cleanest starts in modified, at least. Like I said, Simon starting way down the order, making his way up to P2, P3 within the first few laps each time. Really strong drive again from Simon Nicholson. Probably expect nothing less, to be honest. He's great talent in the field. It'll be interesting to see what changes he can bring to the Nationals in a few months' time as well. So we all know how strong he is at pretty much every track that he goes to, whether it be low grip, medium or high grip, seems to really, I guess, have an advantage when it comes to the lower grip tracks. This feels like that sort of medium grip track. It doesn't have the extreme high grip where you have cars just turning over every 2 seconds, but not a huge amount of slide on the track either. So it's definitely a strong track, I'd say, for Simon, if he can master, I'd say, a bit more of the setup. Jordan Isgen, coming from off-road, it was his first modified touring race. So to put it up into P2 and be racing for the win, it'll be, once again, really interesting to see how he comes back into it and become the Nationals. Jordan, I think, is about a 2.5 hour drive from the track, from his house. So I'm sure he'll probably spend a couple of days testing out there and working everything in. P4, Todd George and Jonah Hunting in P5. Once again, heard a fair bit about Jordan in the past. Never actually been able to see him race. Looked really strong on track. It'll be really interesting to once again see Jordan when it comes to Nationals. I think probably had a little bit of room to move as well there. Sandy having a bit of a rough weekend. So Sandy having a couple of rough starts there, a couple of real rough races, managing to pull it together in race number 3. But the rest of the races were pretty rough, I would say. Not the best starts. All right, so that pretty much covers us for the TFTR Masters. And obviously, like I said, they are going to be holding... Oh, forgot about front-wheel drive. So Tim Moylan, Tim Boundary, and Jason Dixon. So good battles, actually, between the two Tims in that one as well. So yeah, they are hosting the national titles come November. I'm hoping to be there myself, which would be really good. I know there's a couple of big names looking at entering for that. I believe, and I don't know how much I can say, but I believe there are some very big names looking to enter for that as well. So I won't delve into too much because I know the committee probably wouldn't like that. But yeah, look out for announcements over on the TFTR Facebook page. But yeah, keep a wise eye out for some big names looking to enter into that event. I'm really looking forward to it. Okay, so third, final, and definitely not least, let's switch on over to the most recent, which only happened last weekend. So just before I got sick, luckily, the Queensland 8 scale off-road state titles. Now, let's see. There we go. This was a really strong event. Probably one of the strongest state titles I've seen for 8 scale in Queensland for quite some time. E-Buggy especially was super strong. If we scroll on down for E-Buggy, you'll see we had almost 60 entrants for E-Buggy. So that's a very, very thick field when it comes to electric buggy racing within Australia. Let's just pop them off. Okay. So top 15 would have been a massive struggle to make the top 15 at the very least. The driving standards for all three classes was incredible. We'll click on over to electric buggy AAA main results. So top 15 drivers you can see here, all the way through the field is drivers that you'd expect to see at even a national level just about. So probably a couple in there that are strong local drivers that might miss out on, at least a top 15 to top 30 at a national level, but nonetheless, real strong top 15. Alex Bernardic, I wouldn't say complete home track advantage. Alex's home track is Pine Hills, but I know he does a lot of testing when it comes to Logan as well. So I had a really good amount of knowledge when it came to the Logan RC track. Really, really strong throughout the whole weekend. And Caleb, obviously coming from non-local, we didn't get practice on the Friday, would have hampered the potential of probably closer racing, I would say. Caleb was really quick once again over a single lap, just probably struggled with a little bit of consistency and really found his sort of rhythm come late on the Sunday. Once he sort of found that rhythm, you could see the lap time starting to drop even further, matching Alex's times. But like I said, I'd say practice not happening on the Friday probably really hampered his ability to race against Alex come Sunday. Nonetheless, Alex taking the win. This is E-Buggy A123s. Caleb Noble coming home in P2. And Darren Perry having a really, really strong run. Definitely, I'd say a bit of a surprise in certain ways. And I know I mentioned this over on Action RC in the comment section, but Darren seems to be just a driver that can go to any track and just be within the top 5, top 3 almost every single time. So Darren's been racing for many, many years, but it always seems to be right around that pointy end, even against top level drivers such as, Caleb, Alex, and Jaden Edmonds. So on to Jaden coming home in P4, traveling up from South Australia, once again hampered by the fact that we didn't get practice in on Friday. Would have made things really, really tough for those drivers, not being able to learn the track almost at all. We had all of about a 5-minute seeding run on Saturday morning before we got into racing or qualifying on Saturday. Things managed to kick off, I think, at 10 o'clock in the morning after the deluge rain. And once again, similar to the Sunny Coast event, we had about 125 mils of rain on Friday. I would say that usually, like in the past, probably only a couple of years ago, 125 mils of rain would have cancelled most events in Logan. The committee's done a huge amount of effort to make sure that track drains off really nicely now. So it's good to see how much effort's gone into the club to ensure that this event could even run in the conditions that we had. Nonetheless, Jaden coming home P4 and TJ Kripiri. So if anyone that doesn't know young TJ, TJ is an up-and-coming driver from a little bit west of the Gold Coast, and they've actually pretty much bought into this hobby so much that they have their own track, and it's virtually their own world-class track as well. It's under their own big shed. They've got a whole load of dirt placed into this shed. You can practice all day, every day if you wanted to. And you can actually see that skill level coming through now on TJ. the speed, the consistency as well. And I think one of the biggest things that TJ used to lack was his consistency. Whereas you can see over his result, a 5th, a 6th, and a 4th, his consistency was there and right on the money. Wasn't far behind people like Jaden Edmonds and Darren Perry. If they were to make a mistake, TJ would have been all over them. So really strong drive from TJ. And we see that again over in Nitro when we get to that in a minute. Jordan Van having his first run, E-Buggy having a strong run, Jackson Beale there as well. I think Jackson probably would have been looking for a slightly better result. But at the same time, he's done a little bit of work at Logan as well. So I'd say probably looking for a better result. Lacked a little bit of consistency throughout the weekend. Had the overall top speed, had the 1 lap speed pretty comfortably, probably to be in that sort of top 3, top 4. But just a little bit of consistency probably lacking. And once again, the track is very different from this weekend from what they'd probably been testing on. So that would have made it a little bit more difficult as well. Greg Lander, strong weekend. Justin Moore, Jason Ryan filling in your top 10. Corey Tate as well. Good run from Corey. All right. We'll pop on over to E-Truggy. Electric Truggy. Once again, good fields for Electric Truggy. Electric classes in Queensland are super, super strong, and this follows all the way along to E-Truggy. I know it's not really a big class in most other states. I think it is somewhat reasonable down in South Australia, but in Queensland, it seems to be pretty strong at the moment, which is really good to see. It's just another one of those classes where it's easy to sort of jump in. You don't have to fine-tune a motor that much. You can chuck a car on the track and you can be reasonably quick as long as you can get around for each and every lap and not break your car. Oh, geez. Can't even drink. Unless Greg Lander, really, really strong weekend come to the Electric Truggy side of things. Hardly stepped a foot wrong when it came to E-Truggy racing against Kupanitsky. Coop putting a whole heap of pressure on him throughout the entire weekend. They were nose to tail each and every race. It came down to a decider where Greg actually got the better of Coop. Coop making a couple of small mistakes, I think, early on, having to fight his way up to the back of Greg. Getting real close at the end. I think he was about 8 seconds but down after 2 minutes and managed to catch that up. I think possibly even got up to about 12 seconds. So real good fight back to at least be on the tail of Greg Lander, but just couldn't quite catch up close enough to force Greg into a mistake. But realistically, I don't think Greg was going to make too many mistakes. Greg was real strong all weekend. Ben Meyer up in P3 as well. He had a good weekend, fighting alongside Zane Thorpe as well. Good to see Zane having a good couple of runs. Zane seems to be the master of having really rough starts. And I think I've said to him before, if there's one person that's going to be, the luckiest person on the track, it's going to be Zane. He's going to get taken out by a car flying across the track, a marshal not looking or something like that. Something strange will happen to Zane. There's a good chance if anyone's going to happen to, it'll happen to Zane. Lee Grace having a good run. I was confusing Lee for pretty much the entire weekend. I think with the 2 other white cars on the track, which is always fun. Makes it really easy to race call when there's 3 cars on the track that all have the exact same body color. Jeez. Sort that out, guys. Change your body colors up a little bit. Put some different stickers on. Alrighty. Over to Nitro. Premier class for the weekend. And once again, fairly strong run. We had an A, B, and C main for Nitro Buggy. If I can find out, there it is. 45-minute main for the Nitro Queensland titles. And once again, Alex coming out on top. Now, one thing I will mention coming out from this event, and it's quite unusual when we see it at Logan, at least. I know it's quite standard when it goes to other tracks, I would say, but we actually had a significant amount of tyre wear at Logan when it came to the finals. The tyre wear for the Nitro buggies, especially once we had a 10-minute delay call. So Kupanitsky had some issues. We had to call a 10-minute delay. We didn't have any works to the track, obviously. Track was allowed to dry out a lot more than what it had been in the last probably few hours, if not that last whole day. So which allowed the track to just be a lot more aggressive on the tyres when it came through the finals. So we actually saw almost bull tyres come about the 10-15 minute mark. I know a couple of drivers were stating that their tyres were just slicks after 15-20 minutes. So just running on straight slicks for, say, 30 minutes, definitely challenging. It was a challenge to all drivers. You could see, on the line, it was okay. but as soon as drivers went off the line into that sort of silty dust, it was real challenging to get back online. Nonetheless, Alex making the most of it, getting a couple of laps up on the field, just not stepping a foot wrong. Consistency of 93.2%, which is really strong. Similar with Caleb as well, 93.4. Just real strong lap times throughout the entire weekend. You know, fastest lap of 28.1. I would say that there was possibly a quicker lap out there if the track was really nice and damp, tacky, but nonetheless, it wouldn't have been much quicker than that throughout the weekend. Caleb Noble coming home in a strong P2. Once again, minimal practice. You could see him getting quicker as we got into the Nitro Main. Started out the first about, I'd say 5-10 minutes in the Nitro Main within I would say roughly 2.5 to 3 seconds. And it was really keeping pace with Alex. And that was good to see, considering, once again, minimal practice, had 4 qualifiers and 1 practice round. So realistically only had about half an hour of practice leading into the actual final itself. And once again, Darren Perry, old DP, coming home in P3. Good, strong result again from Darren Perry. It just blows my mind that he can just stay strong at every single track. Jackson Beale coming home in P4 and Jaden Edmonds in P5. Now, I actually made a mistake when I was race calling between Jaden Edmonds and Darren Perry. Jaden and Darren were on very different fuel strategies, and I actually called Jaden Edmonds through as I believed that he was lapping Darren Perry. It was my mistake, and I apologized to Darren after the race, and he said it wasn't a problem because he knew that they were on different fuel strategies anyway. So that was lucky. Nonetheless, strong results from Darren, Jackson, and Jaden. Dean Ross coming home P6, had a interesting tour through pit lane at one point, came in a little bit hot, and caused a couple issues, ended up going for a drive-through. He came down and apologized to me, and I believe that he would have apologized to a couple other drivers as he was going through as well. Darren Cairns, P7, Ben Meyer, 8, David Sharp, 9, and Liam Nolan Smith in the 10 spot. After that, you had Cookie bumping all the way up from the C main. Thought we had TJ in this, so it must have just been E-Buggy. I think he did run Nitro Buggy, but I think he sat out a lot of qualifiers. Not sure exactly what the go was, but his car was quick. I think he might have bumped into the B main, looked strong for the B main, but might have had issues. I can't remember exactly. Nonetheless, Alex, Caleb, Darren, Jackson, and Jaden. So those are our sort of 3 big events throughout the weekend, throughout the last couple of weeks, throughout the last few months. The 23 state titles being delayed to 2024. We have another 10 scale state titles coming up in a short amount of time for 10 scale. But yeah, we'll discuss that a little bit more in a minute. Once again, nationals coming up for the on-road at TFTR in November. Have a look on the TFTR Facebook page if you haven't already. Entries for that will be coming out pretty soon, I would say. TJ's front uni popped out almost every run. There you go. So he was quick, but just having issues, teething issues by the sounds of it. Thanks for that, Dimitri. It clears it up a bit. So yeah, don't forget the nationals for on-road coming up in November. Entries will be out for that soon. I believe the Queensland 10 scale off-road titles coming up pretty soon as well. I will be race calling for that one. I believe entries will be coming out fairly short for that one. They also have their truck race coming up in a few weeks' time. And let's see, the Australian 8 scale off-road nationals. That's next month down in South Australia. So head on over to, I believe it is Southern Models, if I remember rightly. Actually, Clive, you can jump on. You'll be able to know this one, won't you? Let's see. There we go. G'day, Clive.
Where is Mitch? Southern Districts, the club is called. Down Lonsdale Way in Adelaide.
Perfect. And that is next month. I have the exact dates here. Where are we? January. So 21st to the 24th. So if you haven't entered for that and you are looking to enter, make sure you head on over, enter for that one. So that will be a good one. So we'll introduce Clive, and we also have Pete here as well. We'll introduce Clive to start off with. So, big welcome to Clive. Thanks for jumping on board. And we're going to discuss a couple of topics, I would say, when it comes to the worlds, the track, that sort of side of things. So, big ups to Clive for jumping on board. So, introduce yourself, Clive. What do you do? And who are you?
Clive Silver. I'm the secretary for RCRA, part-time on-road racer, and I'm also part of FEMCA and IFMAR. So yeah, one of the board members of IFMAR these days. So that happened late last year, and yeah, just generally the go-to person, it seems, for any questions about the governing body of RC in Australia and international racing. And yeah, as I said, occasionally race a bit on road myself too.
Yep, perfect. I'll touch on this a little bit more in a minute as well, when it comes to IFMAR sort of side of things. But your job within at least Australia at the moment is sort of controlling at least a bit of each of the organising bodies in certain ways, is it?
Yeah. So effectively, I'm on the EP on-road section, but most of the sections will come to me for advice, bouncing, make sure that they're able to do things. I also facilitate all the payments to the clubs, all the payments from the clubs, all the payments to the clubs. So if we're reimbursing or we're looking after insurance or we're looking after entries with 1/8 or helping out with trophies and other bits and pieces, media, all these sort of things, and then ultimately the world's qualifications and the world's attendance ends up being funneled through me, through FEMCA. So help coordinate and look after that as well.
Yeah. Okay. And with the world, we may as well get Pete on here because he's sitting there patiently waiting. Let's click on over to that. Jump on in, Pete. How's it going, mate?
Hey, gentlemen. How's things?
Yeah, pretty good, I'd say.
Thanks for having me on tonight.
No, not a problem. No, thank you for jumping on as well. Such late notice. I got these guys probably about an hour, I don't know, 2 hours before I was going on live. Just said, all right, do you want to jump on?
Something like that, yeah.
That's typical
good timing. Good timing,
yeah,
considering what we've announced this week.
Yeah, it's been an exciting week. So yeah, I've had been on the phone non-stop for the last 2 days, which has been awesome.
Yeah, so obviously the big announcement that a lot of people are talking about as of recently being that the Worlds are going to be held in Australia and also at Hills RC. And walk me through the process when it comes to how that's been decided and that sort of side of things, probably to start off with Clive, and now we'll work onto the track and that sort of side of things in a minute.
Yeah, sure. So IFMAR run a rotation. They publish a rotation in their rulebook around where each of the classes, the events is going to be for the block. There's 4 blocks. There's RAW, which is North America, so USA and Canada, effectively, and then there's EFRA, which is all of Europe, and places like the UK that aren't part of Europe but are part of Europe from a continent point of view. Then there's FEMCA, which is the Far East Model Car Association, which is where we sit. So anything within Oceania and Asia, and also a little bit of the Middle East as well, like Kuwait and stuff are actually in FEMCA. But yeah, and then there's the fourth, which is FAMAR, which is literally the 4th Model Car Association, and there's some A's in Latin or something or other in there as well, which is effectively South America. So all of the Latin countries, and also anywhere from Africa. So specifically for 1/10 EP, it's FEMCA's turn. It's been 25 years since it's been in Australia, so I did a little bit of lobbying, a little bit of inquiry around Australia. Just have we got the clubs? Have we got the facilities? Talk to racers, talk to clubs. I think the first time I probably spoke to about it with Peter would have been the 2018 down at Keelof. Does that sound right? Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah, and we sort of talked about, what have we got? What could we do? Are we good enough? Are we big enough? Could we get the attendance? Could we get the people? And then started lobbying around getting it to Australia. Got that over the line with FEMCA. Then we push on to IFMAR, and then it's a case of, right, we can commit as a country. So we started talking to a few clubs, and then we asked the clubs to go through a bit of a process to sort of put their best foot forward. And that was in between the Worlds, which is the shirt that I'm wearing, and towards the end of last year, and Hills. Actually, what happened is the other clubs, that were keen, they decided that actually no, they didn't think they were quite ready, or they wanted to put their support behind a club that was putting in a lot of effort. And as a lot of people know, Peter went to the Worlds last year just to experience, to help with planning, to help understanding, and know ultimately what it's going to take to run the event. And we got all the green lights over the past couple of weeks, and yeah, put that announcement out on Friday. Was it Friday? Yeah, Friday.
Yep. Yeah. I think I coming off the man flu that I've had for the last couple of days, I'm pretty sure I slept for about 16 hours on Friday, and I woke up to a whole heap of events that had just been unloaded when it comes to Saturday morning. So yeah, that was a big one, obviously. So yeah, Pete, actually, I want to get your experience from the actual world itself. So you weren't a driver there; you were just sort of taking the experience, seeing how everything runs. What was your overall experience from the Worlds, and knowing that a US Worlds is probably the biggest it'll get, the best it ever, you'll see. What was your takebacks from that event, and what do you think you can bring to an Australian event?
Okay, for the biggest thing for me that stood out from the Worlds over at Arizona was the facility. The facility was amazing. Presentation was next level. That's going to be hard to compete with. In terms of track, one thing I'm really excited about is we're going to be giving a track that's going to be unique to Americans and Europeans. So I'm hoping that we're to see a lot of people from both areas coming to an even playing field, and seeing some really exciting racing. I have a feeling that the Europeans felt they were a little bit hard done by is not the right word, but they were sort of on the back foot because it was a surface that, especially Rifkin, it's his home track. He's going to be hard to compete with. They've done mega laps around there. So coming to Australia, I'm really excited to see what sort of racing you get. I believe that we have Australia has a lot of really passionate RC people who are all going to come together to make this event something really, really special. While it's at Hills, it's not a Hills event. It's an Australian event, and we're encouraging all the RC racers from around Australia to come and get involved. Guys from Perth, Nick and that, he's already told me he's keen to come over and help out, just run the event. So I've been contacted over the last 2 days. I can't tell you by how many people who just want to come and be a part of it. So not even racers. They just want to come, help out, and make this like a memorable event, much like St. Ives. So when I was a young racer back in '89, I got to enjoy the St. Ives event. I didn't get to race, but that always gave me the drive to want to be part of a world event in Australia again. So it's something really exciting, and I'm pumped, so pumped. Then this is going to be amazing.
No, it's epic as well. Yeah, go on, Clive.
I think for me, Mitch, having been to 2019, I went to Slovakia with yourself, as you know, and then going to the US. Yeah, Pete's right. Like the facility, Hobby Action, amazing place. Huddy Arena, it's up there with. It's got to be the best facility in the world. But it needs the passion and the organisation of the helpers, the volunteers, in some cases employees, to make it happen. And I think what Pete, I'm speaking for him, but what he would have realised going there is, yeah, we can do this, right? And it was when I went to Slovakia, I went, well, yeah, we don't have a facility like Huddy, but we can put on an event like this, no dramas. And that was where the impetus came from going to that. It's like, right, okay, we can, yeah, let's do this, let's go for this in our round, and we can.
Yeah, I have no doubts. I think there would have been a couple of clubs within Australia that would have been capable of holding it, and I full support behind the Hills RC, committee and that sort of side of things when it comes down to it. What have we got in the ways of, say, we'll start off with the track surface and that sort of side of things. So the track surface is a fairly natural surface itself. It's a fairly medium grip with molasses treatment. Is that correct?
Yep, 100% correct. The good thing about the track is once we get it right with the molasses and we have bulk cars on there, there's a massive big black line that comes up, little dust. And we'll be doing things. One of the lessons we learned from the Worlds in Arizona is they had blowers. So every round, a marshal would blow part of their track. We'll be doing the same thing. So it'll be, I would say it's even going to be more consistent than Arizona. One thing you've felt over there is if they had a 10-minute break, the misters were still going. The next cars on the track struggled big time. Yep. I don't think we're going to see that in Australia. It'll be more consistent across the round, which I think will hopefully make people happier. The track, like I said, the surface is unique to Europe and America, but it is a hard packed track. It is what I call an old school track, and most of the guys who come on racing love it.
Yep. Watering, that sort of side of things. What is there anything required when it comes to that sort of side of things? When we have like a large event, say nationals style event, will there be like a watering schedule for that? No,
so there'll be no watering at all during the actual day itself. There might be some moisture put down after the event each night. So the track will have a little bit of moisture in it in the morning, which will dry out throughout the day. It just helps to stop it from breaking up over. For a day, it's fine. But if we're doing the Worlds, that's an 8-day event. Over the 8 days, if we're not putting any moisture in, it'll start breaking up to a certain degree with that many cars going over it. So each night it will be prepped again, but it will be kept fairly dry. Okay, not a problem. And with that, I'm guessing you guys are actually holding the actual nationals, the 10-scale nationals in a couple of months' time. You're holding the state titles before that. You're going to have a lot of prep coming into the Worlds. I'm sure that you'll have probably large events. You'll have the pre-Worlds, I'm guessing, next year. You'll, I guess, have a good understanding of what's going to happen during large events. Have you ran events virtually the same as what we're going to run the Worlds in the past, with it just been no rain during the day? Is that pretty common for you guys? Yep. So coming out of COVID, RC in Sydney went nuts. I think we had 18 months where we did not have a club day without 100 entries. So we had one Sunday where we had 130 entries for the day for a normal club day. There was nothing special. It was just a club day. So that was 14 races in a round. We got through that in a day. So well experienced in running in big days, big events. We've held state titles. We held the XRS series every year. Big events aren't a problem for us. We have heaps of members who are happy to step up and help out. So yeah, looking forward to holding an even bigger event. But yeah, as you said, we got in, I think it's April 15th, around that date, we've got the state titles coming up. Yep. October this year is nationals. In discussions about when obviously it's only just been announced on Friday, but in discussions about when the World's warm-up will be. There'll be some discussions as soon as that decision is made, then obviously that will be announced. Yep. The Worlds will most likely be held in early October 2025, but once again, that's to be confirmed. Yep. That's just where we're starting. So October in Sydney, that is the best time of the year. That's our lowest rainfall. It is most consistent temperatures. For example, it's when they had the Olympics in Sydney because the weather is best. So yeah, that's about it. On rainfall, probably one of my biggest concerns, and I'm glad you mentioned the fact that it's lowest rainfall and stuff. What is the sort of idea if we are looking to get rain? How can we sort of prevent the track from being flooded up and stuff? So the track already has good drainage. We could have a downpour tonight and still race in the morning. That's fine. Obviously, with the Worlds, we will have covers that we can cover the track so we can protect it. Once again, it is an outdoor track. If Mother Nature doesn't want to help us, yeah, we can have a couple of days of rain. But that time, we've picked the best time of the year. Our track drains really well. So even if we get rain, we can get back on the track really quickly. We even have dry vacs where we actually get out on the dirt surface and we can dry vac the dirt. It's been done before many times. Okay. The rain doesn't scare me too much. Okay. That's positive. That's real positive. So I think probably one of the biggest concerns for people traveling from overseas would be the fact that, they turn up and peas down with rain, 100 mils on the first day, and we don't run for 2 days being an outdoor event. But good to see that, or good to hear that you guys have it in place, that, the ability to be able to control as much as you can without it, say, just being raining every day anyway. Obviously, we can't race if it's raining. Yeah. If it rains the day before, not a concern. Yeah. It's awesome to hear. We'll flick back over to Clive for a bit as well. So I know, I'm pretty sure that you've probably had a lot of questions about this in the last few months. Yeah. When it comes to qualifying for the actual Worlds,
I want you to run me through how drivers qualify for a world titles. I know we've gone through it in the past. May as well
sure.
run through it again.
Yeah, so the RCRA rules, as they see it, and they won't, well, I can't see them being changed. I can't see the clubs voting on or proposing a change to this before this Worlds. The way they work is your best 4 events in a 2-year period. Effectively, that was put in place so that you could attend your home states, head to the nationals, and then you could get the maximum amount of points, or it's actually minimum amount of points, but maximum amount of results for you for a Worlds. And it's only state titles and only the national championships that count. We're actually unique in that most countries only rank off of their nationals, or in European they only allow the Euros for Worlds qualification anyway. So we do get some extra spots being the host. I'm just going to the exact numbers there so I don't get that wrong, but this is a 150 place event, which should give some comfort as well when Pete's talking about 130 on a just on a club day, right? This is and that's where you are running practice qualifying and finals in the one day, which we don't do for a Worlds. But this will be a 150 place event. The standard is 15 places per block. The host block then gets a further 25 places, and that is traditionally given to the host nation. So we get our share of the 15, which those that have approached me in the past, like the default for that is 2 for Australia. Like there's 20 odd countries in FEMCA, but we get 2 out of that 15, and that's purely because of the amount of support that we've offered. And typically those are the spots that come back quickest if people from other member countries in the block aren't attending. The chance of there not being 15 from FEMCA wanting to come to an Aussie Worlds would be pretty light, you would have thought. So I would expect that those places will go. So we'll then get, as I said, we'll get 25 as the host block. There is then pool places, and these are given out on a let's say a merit based allocation, and then there's IFMAR places. There's 15 of those, and they are attributed to past world champions. There has been junior spots given out specifically in the past, and the like. And so we will be looking at minimum, in my view, 40. Maybe up to 60 or 70 spots. The way that we'll run this is similar to what we did for Perth, which is basically find out who's interested, take deposits based on confidence. We don't want to be taking money off people when we just go, well, we know you're not going to come, or you're not going to get a chance. So we're not going to take like 150 deposits. So that's just silly. But we'll make sure that we've got people who have paid their cash, who are committed and ready to go in place, so that we can always fill those spots. And if any other country says, look, we're not using any of our allocation, FEMAR, they don't travel much from South Africa and South America, so those ones come back into the pot as well. That we've got drivers that are just ready to fill the holes, right? That's how we've ended up with 18 or whatever it was at USA, and we ended up with more obviously in Slovakia than the FEMCA allocation, let alone the Australian allocation. But the way that the points work in RCRA, and I'm getting this off the top of my head, it's 1 point for winning an event at national level and half a point for TQ, right? And then the points rise from there. States, it's double that. If states have less than 10 people, it gets doubled again because it's not as competitive. If nationals don't have 16 in the heat, which should be, very unlikely, then the points get halved. But essentially, it's trying to get minimum amount of points, and the minimum you can end up with is in the order of 6, I think it was. So it'll be your 4 best results over a 2-year period, and that 2-year period is last year. So most people probably already have 2 events, maybe 3. Some have got 4 events already in the bank, and then it's whatever is raced this year. So go to your home states, go to your nationals. That's going to be your best chance. Yeah. Anyone who's done 4 events or more is automatically ranked again over someone who has 3, over someone who has 2, over someone who has 1. Yeah. Now, the total amount of ranking that up until the end of 2020, 2023, registered races around Australia that had done mod was in the order of about 60, and around about 40 that had done more than 2 events. So we're not talking a massive number of people. So, if you grabbed all of those races, like basically everyone who had done more than 2 events in the previous 4 years would get a go, potentially. And that's races that have committed to going to, multiple events in that period. I'm expecting it to rise. Already saw at the South Australian state titles some guys that have come out of the woodwork and decide to race mod. That's fantastic. Come and race the Premier Class, get yourself ready. Now those guys might do 2 or 3 events this year. They're giving that their red hot go and their best chance to be able to qualify. But I guess my advice would be, don't expect to have not done an event and just go, hey, I'm coming, because that ain't happening. And if you've only done 1 event this year, say your home states, and you hadn't done any last year, you're probably not going to have enough. So you want to be aiming for 2 or 3 events at the absolute minimum over the last 2 years. 4 will get you top 40, I would say. No matter,
Right. So once again, it's one of those systems where you go to events, you qualify minimum of 4 events to pretty much automatically qualify. You could just about say.
Yeah, I'd say that. Yeah, that's a reasonable thing based on what we've seen in the past. Yeah, if you've done 4 events, you're a very high chance.
Yeah. That pretty much is it in a nutshell. Go to a couple of events, go to state titles, nationals. We got, I think we've only, have we done any events, state titles this year? Did you say South Australia? Done theirs? That's right, South Australia last weekend. So that's the only state that has completed their state titles. We still have Queensland's coming up at Chargers. Vix is down at, I talked about it yesterday. Yeah, I know.
Is it Knox?
Knox, I believe.
It is Knox, is it? Yeah, same as.
I'm not sure. I'm just throwing it out there.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it is Knox.
Knox is what I'm thinking as well. I was going to say it, and I was like, oh, hang on, no, that's the Bash. But it could well be that it's the state titles there as well.
Yeah, I believe so. And Keilor has the Invitational coming up in a couple of weeks' time, but I don't believe they have the states this year.
And come along the hills. April, we've got state titles. October, the nationals. So get used to our facility. That's where the worlds are. Come along, grab the points. Yep. Yeah. It's going to be awesome. And this nationals, I'm expecting to be huge.
Yeah.
Yeah. I haven't heard anything from Tasmania. I think there's been a closure of a club down there, so I'm not sure there's going to be a state titles down there. There hasn't been one run in the NT forever. There will be one in WA, no doubt. And ACT, it's been a while since they've run a 1/10 dedicated, but it doesn't mean that they don't.
I've been hearing rumors
and decide to. Yeah, that's it.
They literally just finished rebuilding their track to cope with 10 scale cars. So it's been an 8 scale track for many years. They just put a whole lot of work in to get 10 scale cars on. I really hope that they do, because a lot of people will go down and attend that event, because it's a great club, an awesome facility. So people should be
great dirt.
Yeah, it is. So we've done a lot of 8 scale racing down there. The place rocks. Unreal facility. So guys, Canberra guys, please run a state titles. People will turn up.
Yeah, shake the tree with Darren and see what can be organised. So
I think good opportunities from a couple of clubs around Australia. I know Northern Territory has a club in Alice Springs. It'd be an opportunity for them if they wanted to run a 10 scale event to run a 10 scale state titles. It's out there at least. It's a potential. Any Northern Territory. I'm not sure how many 10 scale Northern Territory drivers we have, to be perfectly honest, but it'd be a good opportunity for any of them if they wanted to have a run, potentially qualify for the Worlds, and they could host a state titles.
And if it works for you from a travel point of view, and you're thinking I could go to a smaller event and sneak in a good result, then there's nothing to stop that from happening either, right?
Yep, exactly right. I think a lot of drivers probably do that for the Western Australia titles, to be perfectly honest. And
Tasmania has been one that's been used in the past.
Yep, by myself included. Okay, back over to the track, the facility, that sort of side of things. Pete, do you have I guess a working plan of any upgrades you're looking to make to the actual facility itself at the moment?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm hoping that at the end of this week, we have 200 tons of new soil coming in. So this was all planned even prior to knowing about Friday. So hopefully between 100 and 200 tons, but closer to 200 tons of new soil. The track will be getting rebuilt starting on Friday. So there'll be a new track for the state titles. Now we know the worlds are coming up. There'll be a lot more effort. The track will be a little bit more special. But the facility is awesome to begin with. So our council is very supportive. About 3 or 4 years ago, they put 200 grand into building us a new driver's stand with disabled ramp. So we've got essentially two 40-foot shipping containers sitting on top of each other that have been heavily modified to suit our situation. Lots of concrete paths. There's a massive area for pits, and it's a real Australian track set in a bush setting. If you're not careful, a kookaburra comes and steals sausage out of your hand while you're having it. There's wallabies jumping around. So it's a perfect place for the worlds. A bit like at St. Ives, actually. It was in a bush setting too. So a really Australian event. It's going to make it pretty special. We haven't got lighting at the moment, but the council contacted me about 2 weeks ago, saying that they're looking to put lighting in for our facility.
Yep.
That's going to be amazing. That will transform us. So that was always one concern with the worlds, is just lighting. You know, if running in October, we have got more hours of light, but you know, as you saw in Arizona, things go wrong, days blow out. If we have lighting, that sort of eases those concerns. So that will be a big one. But yeah, other than that, the track or the facility is already amazing. So yeah, it's looking good.
Awesome. And then tell me about the actual location itself. What do you have in the way of hotels around the location, around the track, that sort of things?
Okay, so our track is located in northern Sydney. It's about a no traffic, 35-minute drive from the airport. So if you're flying internationally, you fly to Sydney Airport, you could drive, say in 40 minutes to the track. So located in Castle Hill, Sydney. There's we've put out an information pack actually for our state titles, which shows a lot of hotels and stuff. But there's plenty of accommodation located within sort of 3 or 4 Ks of the track. The closest probably being about 2 Ks. And accessible. There's actually, even if you wanted to come by rail to Castle Hill, there's transport pretty much to within 500 meters of the track. So it's very accessible, easy to get around, food, shops, accommodation, everything's where you need it.
Right. I think another sort of concern I think a couple of drivers have had, I mean, it's one sort of concern that I've had, but I'm pretty sure you guys have already thought it out, resolved and stuff. How's it gonna work with the pitting and sort of parking situation? Because I know you guys have quite a small car park. Explain that to us, because I know you guys have already planned a lot of this stuff out.
Yeah, so when you say a small car park, it's probably, I actually got to measure it, but it's probably about 100 meters by 40 meters. So you say small, but that's fairly substantial. So that will become our pit area. Obviously, there's a lot of planning to go in, but we'll be setting up marquees. There'll probably be 2 massive marquees for the drivers. We'll have enough room for, obviously, we've got tyres we have to look after. There's officials we need. There'll be going to be food trucks. So there's plenty of room for the pits. We'll probably end up potentially with a shuttle service. So we'll have an area where people can drive in, drop off the gear. It might be about 400 or 500 meters away that they have to park. And potentially we just shuttle those guys back. Not really a big problem. Easily done. I think they did the same thing in China. I didn't go to China, but I was told that they use shuttles to get guys to the track.
Yeah.
So you'll be able to drive to the pit area, drop your gear off, and then either walk back or we get a shuttle.
Right. No, it's good to hear as well. I know you guys are planned it out really well already, and a lot more planning obviously to come. A lot of man hours and stuff that goes into these events, like just a nationals that a lot of people don't see. So a world titles is just a whole nother ball game. You know, how strong of a committee do you have? You know, who's your main committee, and how many on top of that do you have to sort of support this sort of event?
All right, so I've been president of the club now for about 7 years. Ben Cribben, who is also section head of RCRA for EP Offroad, is our current secretary. So we've got about 7 people in our committee at the moment, all who are highly motivated, been around for a long time, want to get involved. Our members, currently, Ari Barkler, everyone knows, a member of our club. He's already helping out massively with organising of the Worlds. The Donnellys, the Ments. I'm going to leave someone out who thinks they're important, sorry. But they're people that everyone has heard of, who knows. They're all part of our club. Jeff Primmer from Maitland, he's already going to be heavily involved in organising. So he's been around forever. Probably one of the most knowledgeable guys in running events in Australia. His son Craig actually came second at the Worlds in South Africa some time ago, and he was his pit man. So he's been around for a long time. He came to me. Well, I went to him and said, "Mate, we're interested in running the Worlds." He's like, "Pete, I absolutely want to be part of this." So we've got guys with massive knowledge. They've been around forever. I've been in the sport since about 1986. So there's a lot of knowledge. There's a lot of passion. And our member base of 120 people or something. Everyone is super keen. But like I said, I've been getting phone calls from Bateman's Bay, originally from Chargers. So Chargers was in the running for this. They actually dropped out and they contacted us and said, "Guys, we're not doing it, but we want to come and help." We get along guys from Keylor. Well, there's just everyone wants to come and be part of this. And a lot of the older guys who have been in the sport for a long time, they've been contacting me and go, "Pete, I don't want to race, but I want to come and help and I want to be part of this amazing event." So it's really exciting.
Yeah. Definitely a massive event for, Australian racing. As Clive said before, I think it was 21, 25 years.
Yeah, so 1989.
89.
Back at St. Ives. Yeah.
Yeah. So long.
I remember
long
it like it was yesterday watching Masami take out both titles.
All right, I think Clive's on his way back in a second as well. So yeah, actually, you went to the St. Ives World Titles, and talk us through how that has progressed to where we are now. Actually, so what are the main differences, being from say St. Ives to last year's Worlds in America? What do you see as big changes?
Man, obviously technology is insane, but the support from around the world for that St. Ives event was massive. I think it was the second World Titles. I think the first one may have been actually 80. I think there was 2. I think there was. I'm gonna get it wrong, but I know 89. So it was either the second or third Worlds that had ever been run. It was highly supported. I was about a 13 or 14-year-old kid, standing on the sidelines, and I went, "Wow, I want to be part of this." And to think that I'm going to, it's at my club. I'm going to major part in running it. I am so excited. It makes me emotional because at that age, it just was so big for me. And so I couldn't be more excited. And whatever effort needs to be done, I'm there putting it in, making sure it all goes as planned.
There we go. Matt Roberts has jumped on 85 and 87 leading up to the 89 Worlds.
Yeah.
So,
I think one was in England. Anyway, I can't remember. I was way too young back then. One thing I just want to say, massive thank you to Clive. This has only happened because of Clive. He puts in, once again, he's in the background. No one really sees what he does. His passion, the amount of work that he puts into this is enormous. The only reason we have the Worlds in Australia is because of Clive. He's sort of moving up as into IFMAR and doing things, and it's only a positive for the sport as a whole. Well, it's great for Australia. It's actually great for the sport all around the world. You saw the work that he did when we were in Arizona, the support he gives to the team. As I said, we were only meant to have 2 drivers. I think we had 16 drivers over there. So yeah, when you see Clive, give him a pat on the back and thank him for making this happen. His passion and motivation is unparalleled.
Yeah. A couple of off-topic questions, I'd say, in a way. How do you, like, being a president of a club hosting the World Titles, how do you think we can sort of advance this event, especially this event, to somewhat of a mainstream audience to try and bring more people into the hobby itself within Australia? I know it's a difficult question and probably something that you weren't expecting, but how do you think we can represent, I guess, the hobby in general for the wider audience?
all we can do is advertise. So already in Castle Hill, so it's a highly populated area. Where we are is situated in a recreational park that has high foot traffic. Lots of people, a lot of sporting's going on there. So something like this, just advertising that it's on. I guarantee that through the whole event, you're going to find it hard to find a spot on the fence to watch, because there's going to be that many people coming to watch this. So even when we're in Arizona, there wasn't that many people from outside the track who actually came in. I was actually surprised at how few spectators there were. All the spectators were actually the drivers or pit crews, but people from the general public didn't seem to even know about it. In Australia, it would be different. One, we have a lot of races from the area. If they're not racing now, they have, and they're all going to come. If we can advertise it, mate, the place is going to be packed. The atmosphere there is going to be unparalleled. It's going to be next level.
Yeah.
So hopefully those sort of things, people seeing it, seeing the hype. After that, some little kid, Johnny, walking by, wants to buy an RC car and start racing.
Yeah. And that actually was one thing I noticed throughout the US world as well. And I'm glad you bring that up as well. Being in indoor worlds, and it was very similar to Hoodie Arena, there was just no knowledge that it was there other than for drivers, racers themselves. I think it would be a great opportunity, the fact that it's being held in an outdoor location, that we will have that opportunity to advertise it to the, outgoing public that, come and watch, come and have a look at what happens. This is where you could be, this is what you could do, enjoy the hobby. I think we got Clive back as well. He should be in a second. So yeah, I think it is a great opportunity for the hobby in general. So hopefully,
even as you said, that's what got me in at St. Ives. I was just a local racer. I'd only been competing for a couple of years at a club level, and when I got to see what actually existed out there, I was blown away. And it's obviously made an impact on my life. I've been in the sport now for a long time, and doing what we're doing. So I'm sure there'll be some other kid who turns up to Castle Hill who has the same experience I did.
Yeah, no, I have no doubt, and I'm really looking forward to it. Oh, Clive's, there we go. He's back in.
There we go.
He's transformed from a touring car into a human being.
My own touring car from TFTR 2016, I reckon it was. Yeah.
Yeah, right. There you go. TFTR again. Actually, quick chat about the TFTR track. What are you going to head to that event for the Nationals? You're going to be there?
I'll be there for the Nationals.
Okay,
yeah, 100%.
I'd like to see you there. You're going to be racing?
Yeah, I will. I'll probably just be racing 12 scale again. It's a little bit more enjoyable for me, and it's a chance where you can race against a decent field of 1/12. So that's always good fun.
I'm looking forward to seeing you hook straight into another pipe, mate, on the start line.
Oh yeah, don't remind me about that. Far out, that was terrible. One thing I was just listening to you guys about how to advertise and how do we get people interested in this. I think I said this the last time that I was on your stream, and that is don't be embarrassed about doing RC, right? Don't not tell your mates. Don't, when you're at work, don't think, don't want to actually talk about what I did in the weekend. Be proud of it, right? Yeah, some people think it's a bit nerdy hobby. Some are like, oh, it's only toy cars or whatever else. Nah, just be really proud of it. I've started to really be open about it with with my workmates, with my other friends and the like. And the response is actually really good, and people will get really interested. Whether it's resulted in people actually going and racing or whatever else, that's less the point. It's just about understanding and the knowledge. And I always talk about the fact that when people start talking about funding for other sports and this sort of stuff, well, we get zero, right? And so when there's a newspaper article saying there should be more funding for netball or more funding for women's soccer, I'm like, well, how about you give us $1 first, right? So, and not that those other sports don't need more cash, but it's not known. Like I remember a conversation where someone said, "What, people actually race?" I'm like, yeah. So I've brought my cars into work, like show and tell style, and showing other people what they are. Let other people have a go in the office, all sorts of stuff. But so be proud that you race RC. Don't hide behind it. Share stuff on social media. Don't just have a separate account versus your own personal account or whatever else. Like, be proud of the fact that you race RC and you've got a really cool hobby, and it's a hobby that's really accessible and is a lot of fun. And being amongst mates and that sort of stuff is and traveling around to these events, that's half the fun of it, right? I don't do it because I don't race because I'm good at racing. I do it because I like hanging out with mates and going away and then just doing something that's a bit of fun. So yeah, be proud. That's my thing.
Yep. No, exactly. I think that's great advice as well. But yeah, that's the majority of topics I got to cover, I believe. I'll double check my little chat that I have here. Yeah, we talked about hotels and stuff in the local location to the actual track. We talked about the actual track surface and everything else itself. So that pretty much does cover us the majority of the actual topics that I at least have. Do you actually want to bring up anything else about the facility, the track, or anything else, Pete?
We need to update some of our photos on our Facebook and our now I've just had a brain fade on our website.
Yeah.
They're all a bit old. Haven't been updated for a long time. A lot of them have been put there for history. So we'll start putting some new photos up. Hopefully we'll start making some promotional videos. So as you know, the firsts and seconds are massive into this. They're at our track all the time. And we're going to start talking to those guys. I'm sure we can put something together to promote what we have. It's actually a unique surface. We always have a nice grass infield. We'll put up some photos actually. I have a lot of pride in my grass. So it's a unique, very unique track in the bush. I think a lot of the guys coming from overseas are going to be blown away by what we actually have and what we get to enjoy every week.
Yeah. I know the No Name podcast talked about this a fair bit as well, being the first outdoor world championships in China 2015.
Yep. 15 or 15, yeah, 15, 16, I think it was. Yeah.
Roughly about that. And a lot of people sort of saying it could be potentially the last outdoor worlds. I have my doubts on that, but nonetheless, it'd probably be the last one for a while. I wouldn't be surprised if European worlds will go back indoors. I think a lot of worlds seem to be going to that indoor sort of tracks nowadays.
2019 was supposed to be in France, outdoors, and then was changed to Huddy.
No, so it was at Reims MC.
Yeah, it was actually indoor. It was an indoor track, yeah.
Was it indoor, was it?
Yeah.
I went and visited it.
Yeah, we were going to go.
Right.
Yeah.
My wife wanted to go to France, didn't want to go to Slovakia.
Yeah. Went and visited that track as well, and I was surprised they ended up turning down the world, because I honestly think the facility itself could have very easily held the world titles. I'd say the grip level would have been almost identical to what it was at Hoodie Arena, maybe very slightly more. A really interesting track, actually quite a similar size when it came to what we just had over in the US Worlds.
Yeah, right.
So I actually think
our track's a bit bigger than what we had at the World, so it's about 40 meters by 30 meters. I can't remember. I can't even remember what it was over at Arizona, but it was significantly smaller. I know when I came back and stood in our driver's stand, I was like, oh yeah, this is a bit more space.
Yeah. So 2013 Chico, USA, that was outdoors, and then 2015 was Yatabe, and obviously that was on Astro, and everyone was all
indoors
up in arms about it. And then 2017 was China. So, it's time it went back on dirt. It's time it went back outside, right?
Yeah.
Because apparently we race off-road, right?
Yeah, with jumps and like ripples and the track wears out, and yeah, exactly. And I mean, tires, obviously, that's the huge thing, going to standardized tires. We'll see what the push is for standard rims. That could be interesting. Whether that gains any more traction this year is a discussion. Pre-glued and all that sort of stuff is always being talked about. I mean, hell, 89, Masami won by, prototyping, cutting up his own tires and gluing them back together, and, some other voodoo with things. So, yeah, that's definitely obviously something that's changed a lot since 89. But, we might see some more change with tires. There was obviously issues with the number of the slicks that were available. So that will probably be a big change for our event. Will be formally going to limiting the number of sets. So to avoid the kerfuffle that occurred, Tiregate, as I heard some people talk about, which was, I think, more of a drama for people that were away from the event, just banging on keyboards, as opposed to those that were at the event. And then the limiting the number of tyres, it wasn't a bad thing for the racing.
I assure you, we will not have a tyre issue.
Yeah.
The tyre issue will not happen here.
No,
we will have more than enough tyres, I promise.
Yeah. But we could still see number limits. It might be something that gets that gains traction again. Yeah.
Right.
It will be a pin tyre too. So something like a whole shot, the Raw Speed Super Mini or a Sprinter from JC. It'll be a tyre like that.
Yeah.
It might need to get stuck in the pro line and make sure they keep making it, right? So. Or something equivalent.
Bring back the old.
I've already sent my feelers out to see what we can get.
Yeah, I love the old caliber tires. They're all my favorite. Actually, I've run once at Hills RC, and that was going back about 7 years now. For all of probably about 10 minutes before I think I broke my car. So I have first-hand knowledge of the ins and outs of the track there, obviously. No, I'm really looking forward to the event down at Hills. Actually, Clive, whilst we're talking about tyre limits potential and that sort of side of things, do you think a tyre limit would be based on an event per event basis of being a tyre limit, or do you think it would be an outright limit that the track would have to stick to?
Well, the rules can change. Like IFMAR will just update its rules, right? So it might be a case that it decides for this event it's this many tires, and it might not change because, like at the moment in the rules, the weights are all in like freedom units, as some people refer to them as, in imperial, right? So because that's just what the Americans used to weighing. So that'll change back to metric, right? For our.
We lost Clive.
Any second now, he's going to pop back in and talk real quick. I don't know if he is. He's real frozen.
Maybe the satellites don't make it to South Australia.
Yeah, his internet bill just came in, hasn't paid. All right. I've forgotten where I was talking now. So yeah, the rules can change on an event per event basis, which is good to know because I know that some events probably would need more tires. If we went on the carpet, realistically a quicker tire is going to be a new tire. They'd have to limit it so that way people aren't running on slicks just about by the end of the titles and that sort of side of things.
So one good thing we have is we're 18 months out from the event, right? The poor guys, when they had it at Arizona, they had 7 months to prepare. So they found that they had 7 months to prepare.
Yeah,
that's not a lot of time to prepare for a Worlds.
No.
Larry did an awesome job, but it's all those little things that's potentially what led to him having an issue with tires. They just were thrown in the deep end. I remember speaking to Larry, and he said we asked if there was any information from previous Worlds that we can, and he said no one had any information. So Larry, to his credit, I spoke to him before I left, knowing that we were a good chance of getting the Worlds, and said, can we be in touch when I get back? And he said, absolutely, mate. Any information you want or need, I'm here to help you. So that's thank you to Larry. I haven't had to hit him up yet, but I will be in contact with him soon. And he said he's more than happy to help us in any way with knowledge. So that's awesome.
Yeah, no, they were awesome crew to work with, and you could see the frustration on their face when they were having the tie dramas as well. We're trying to work through it the best of their way they possibly could. Yeah. I think a lot of the tie dramas sort of stem from the idea that they probably expected a lot of guys probably to bring their own practice tires to start off with, whereas I think almost every driver ended up purchasing their own practice tires, I would say.
That's exactly what happened.
Yeah. On top of that, they probably didn't expect... Well, they were expecting drivers probably to know that the tire wear wasn't going to be as high as what everyone was expecting. A lot of people were told before the event 1 to 2 runs maximum on a set of tires before you were virtually going down to foams. It turned out you could virtually run a set of tires with pretty much, a week on the same track, and you wouldn't be running out of rubber. You might be losing a little bit of time, but it'd be minimal. And once we got into, purchasing tires and stuff, we had drivers purchasing like 25 sets, one every single run they're going to be on the track. And
it's also traditionally at every Worlds, you have a new set of tires for every run. That's been happening since I can remember. So that's just people's mentality and what they intended to do.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and people buying enough and then gluing enough for options as well. So there was those that wanted to glue the inserts to the rim, and so they were like buying 6 sets that they'd glue to the insert to the rim, 6 sets that they would do not glued, another 6 sets with a different offset front tire, front rim, and it's just like, what are you guys doing?
Yeah.
But we're not talking top 10 people that were doing this, right? So
Yeah.
and from memory, like Lock Donnelly, his heater run where he like set like a crazy time, I think it was on like 3rd run tires or something like that. So
yeah, I personally, and this is a lot off topic from what we're sort of talking about, but when it comes back to tires, nonetheless, I was finding 3rd to 4th run was best, which was complete opposite to what you were hearing from a lot of the top drivers. Even a couple of top drivers were saying 1st to 2nd run was your best, but nonetheless, far off topic.
It would be very different with a pin on dirt. Yes.
Sorry. Yeah.
It
will be good and interesting to sort of see if we end up having those rules come through. Pete, do you have a rough idea of if those rules were passed through, how many tires you'd want drivers to have for practice qualifying and racing?
I'm not even going to go into that yet. I can see that opening a massive can of worms. And someone will say, "You said," and So let's. There's a lot of discussions to be had before we get to that stage. The only thing I can assure you is that we will not run out of tires. The advantage is the tire that we choose for our track will be a tire that every run runs on our track every week. So we'll overorder by thousands, knowing that they will sell in the future. So that's not a concern. But it is a pin tire. Yeah, so it is going to be a pin tire. So it will have wear compared to the slick. I know the slick was hard to see, but like you said, 3 or 4 runs. I agreed from what I saw. The guys on the 3rd run was just as quick as their first, if not quicker. I actually thought the 1st run wasn't as good. Pin tire is slightly different. So, but anyway, let's not get into that yet. I don't want to open that can of worms just yet.
No.
There's 18 months to work these things out. So there's a lot of discussions to have with Clive, and we'll put forward a committee that we start working together on and make all these decisions informed. We're not just throwing anything out there. Everything will be discussed very thoroughly to make sure we're doing the best things for the racer.
You can imagine like the logic numbers would be, say maybe like 5 or 7, right? So 7 means that you have to run one of your mains or one of your qualies on a used tire, and if you had 5, you'd have to run probably one of both, right? So, and then that brings into the play of, well, do I do half my qualies on new and half on used, so that I'm actually used to running on used tires? So it won't be like really tight restriction of like 3 sets where you got to run them down to the canvas or anything like that. It'd be set up in such a way that the most you'd have to run a set of tires would be twice if forced, and that then just brings in that element of tire management.
It would be good to see that come through, and I think it would alleviate any potential issues in the future when it comes to Tiregate that we had over in the US.
Well, it's freaking expensive too, right? And especially when people are traveling to then land in the country and drop $1,400 or something silly on tires for the 2 events or whatever, it hurts. It's a lot of cash.
If you're saying that with our dollar, if you're a European or American, you're pretty happy coming here right now, right? Our dollar is rubbish. It's a cheap holiday for the guys overseas.
It's such a perfect time for them to come over.
Absolutely. And they don't need to tip.
Yep, don't need a tip. Taxes included. All these bonuses. So, but and I'm actually looking in the sort of semi-near future to put up a couple of, I guess, videos when it comes to the Australian culture, racing in Australia, racing around Australia. For anyone that wants to do alternative races post or pre-Worlds, and that sort of side of things, and.
Maybe you could do a spider identification video, right?
What?
You can do a spider identification video. Yeah. Not harmful. Don't go near. Yeah.
Travel to King's Cross Station, everyone, and see how it goes. But there's a couple of things in the works I'd like to work on when we come closer to the Worlds and in the near future. And I'll probably get you guys to probably help me out through that as well.
Yeah, sure.
But probably start to wrap it up, at least with you guys for now. I'm going to jump on over to a couple of last topics before we wrap this all up in general. Been holding on to you guys for roughly about an hour now. So I appreciate you both for jumping on, and thank you so much for asking or answering my questions and running through what we can expect at least over the next few months in the lead up to the Worlds, and a bit of what we can expect to come to the Worlds as well. So I appreciate you both for jumping on.
No,
thank you, Mitch. Thank you for putting this on. Mate. Yep, very much appreciated.
Yeah, get this much. Okay.
There goes his internet again. Unfortunately, you've got two guys who love the sound of their own voices, so we're always going to be on here for a long time.
No, I appreciate you both. Awesome. All righty, boys. I'll let you
Thank
jump
you very much.
off, and we'll talk to you very soon, I'm sure. Both of you.
Have a nice weekend. Thank you.
See you, boys.
Bye.
See you, Mitch.
Oh, see you, Clive. All righty. Cheers, Pete. Okay. So, yeah, good chat there with virtually two of the top guys that are going to be helping to run the actual IFMAR Worlds come, I believe he said September, October, as of next year. So on that as well, just a brief when it came back to the qualifying for the World within Australia. So this is not for international competitors. This is for Australian competitors only. Just 1 second. There we go. For Australian competitors to qualify for the Worlds, as Clive mentioned, you have to compete in a minimum of probably 2 to 3 state or national level events for 10 scale off-road in the modified classes, obviously. So two-wheel drive and a four-wheel drive, and or at least. When it comes to the Worlds, you will be expected to run both classes. At least it'll be a good chance. I should have probably brushed up on that with Clive. But you will be expected, if you are entering for the world titles, you will be expected to run both two-wheel drive and four-wheel drive. There's a good chance that it won't be very well regarded if you're taking a spot from someone else and only running one class. So it'll be expectation that you run both classes. But like I said, be a minimum for you to have a chance at least at qualifying for the world titles to run 2 to 3 events. But a recommendation to run a 4 event over the last year to this year, end of this year, will almost guarantee you a spot. There's obviously no guarantee in that alone, but as Clive said, we currently have, I think you mentioned about 65 drivers in total that have done at minimum 2 events. So it's just a good heads up. We have the New South Wales state titles coming up. We still have the Queensland titles up in charges. Obviously, the New South Wales titles are going to be held at the World Titles track. No events in 2025 count. No. So, Dan, that's a good question. So, no events will count from 2025. So, it's a 2023, 2024 2-year roster. So, it revolves every 2 years. The year before the Worlds is the year that counts for Australia. So 2 years leading up to the year before. So this is our last year to qualify. So we still have plenty of events to qualify for it. Like I said, Queensland titles at Judge is coming up soon. We just had the Queensland titles at Sunny Coast. That still qualifies for next year's world titles as well, being that it was a 2023 state titles just being held in 2024 because it's within that 2-year period, still counts. On top of that, we have the New South Wales titles to be held at the very same track that's going to hold the world titles. Great opportunity to get some laps in on the world track, along with the nationals also being held there. The world warm-up will not count towards points for qualifying for the worlds. It'll just be an event where, you can race, get used to the format, get used to how the scrutineering work, the committee and scrutineers will sort of get used to how they have to run the event, in other words. There's a good chance for the world's warm-up that we will see international drivers making the trip over to find out what the surface is like. Very good chance we'll have drivers from, say, New Zealand at very minimum. I'm sure we'll have a couple of 8-scale drivers making a trip over to try their hand at 10-scale in Australia. Yep, Aussie Top 25 or Tony, thank you very much. Western Australia in April, VIX in December. So we have those 2 events coming up as well. As Pete mentioned as well, there is a chance that ACT will run their own state titles for 10 scale. They have modified their track to accommodate it. So there is plenty of events to get at least 2 to 3. Majority of drivers that are looking to enter have probably already done 1 to 2 in the last, say, 12 months, whether it be just a home state titles or they've traveled out to a different state titles. You know, you'd be surprised. I've lost count of the amount of years where I've apparently qualified 2 or 3 events and I haven't even realized I've been to them. So just keep that in mind, that a bare minimum to have a chance to get in is 2 to 3 events to qualify into it. And it, like Clive said before, it runs down the pecking order. So if you have 4 events under your belt, you're automatically going to rank above a driver that has 3. That driver could have placed first in every single event. You will still be ranked higher than them because you have 4 events that you have been to, state or national level events. So keep that in mind. That driver that has been to the 3 events, won all 3 of them, will be first in line when it comes to the next order. You know, the 3 event drivers, 2 events, so on and so forth. But that's the sort of easiest way to look at it. Recommendation of going to a minimum of 2 to 3 events and running in that modified classes, 2-wheel drive and 4-wheel drive. We highly recommend that. If you can run 4 events, like we said, there's like 6 events coming up through this year. There's ample time. I know money is tight at the moment to be able to go to like all 6 events or just even 4 events this year. If you have the ability, if you're in New South Wales, it's a great opportunity for you this year, not just because you're hosting the actual Worlds next year, but you have the nationals and the states there. VIX isn't too far away. A little bit harder in Queensland. We were lucky that we had Queensland state titles only a few months back up at Valley Raceway. We have the Chargers state titles coming up as soon there as well. I know a lot of Chargers drivers went down to South Australia for their recent, I think it was last weekend, state titles. So it was good to see those drivers head down there. I know Eggleton, Rob Maycock went down there. You know, drivers traveling pretty big distances to get to these state titles, and other states need to sort of follow suit in that as well. Really tough, obviously, for Western Australia drivers. Good opportunity to get decent points, I guess, in certain ways for the WA drivers, but obviously they're going to have to travel the bigger distances to get over to at least 1 or 2 other events. If they've already done their, say, nationals last year and maybe 1 other state titles, they've got 2 under their belt, they need to probably travel to 1 or 2 more if they can. Now, it's a big distance, obviously, from Western Australia. So, but nonetheless, they had it lucky that the fact that they had the nationals over there and relatively low numbers for the nationals, so would have been real good points on offer for them. So that's how we qualify in Australia. I know, as Clive said as well, we're lucky in Australia that it's not based off a single event. It's not based off just your one, national titles. You could have a bad run and have just no chance of qualifying for the Worlds. In other words, we have the opportunity that we can go to 4 events and have your points total between those 4 events. So yeah. Okay. Let's see. How about if you travel to New Zealand for nationals? Anthony Miller, that's an interesting question. And it's a question that I've proposed in the past. Could you be technically a New Zealand citizen and come over to the Worlds, I guess, as a different country? And I've joked about it multiple times in the past. The New Zealand nationals won't count towards the Australian ranking system, if that's what you're asking. I've joked about it in the past where I could go over to New Zealand, place top 3, be one of their supposed best drivers, and head over to Worlds as a New Zealand driver if I couldn't make it as the Australian driver. But I don't know if that's what you're asking. So I'll just get to clarify that one if you can, Anthony, if you're talking about New Zealand points counted towards Australian points. But yeah, if you are looking at racing over New Zealand, I highly recommend it. It's a huge amount of fun. The nationals over there are always a great time. One of the other talking points I really wanted to briefly discuss, and I was somewhat hopeful to once again last minute call on Ryan to jump on stream to help me out with this as well. But a big announcement from Ryan or RC Maker that he has just recently announced a brand new touring car that he's bringing to, bringing into the playing field, I guess. So he's announced it only, I think, Friday as well, same day as what the Worlds for 10 scale off-road was announced. So it's really good to see an Australian company, realistically, bringing a touring car to the playing field. So it'll be really interesting. So Ryan's currently, like I said, I was hoping to get him on last minute to have a chat here. Far too last minute, obviously. I think he's on a cruise tonight, so chances are that's never going to happen. We'll have a chat with him in the future, though. So he's currently over in Bangkok competing for the TITC, and he will be running his brand new touring car over there. So it'll be really interesting to see how he goes at that event. It's a massive event. The entries would be well over 200 from what I can see. So, and modified class, it looks to be probably about 60 to 80 drivers, I think, for the modified class alone. They have TTO, I think a TTO2 Porsche class as well. That looks to be about 60 or 70 entries as well. Just massive entries and really strong drivers. I think Ronald Volker or Mark Reinhardt's going to be there again this year. So it'd be very interesting to see how, what is Ryan's fresh car competes against them. And I did hear rumors that he might have tested some things last year from the new car, and it ran just as quick as a lot of other cars as well. So it'd be really interesting to watch that. I'm sure it'll be available either through Scotty Ernst, I believe he's running it, as well as on the TITC page if you wanted to follow along with that. Any more questions you guys have with the qualifying for the world titles, the actual world titles? I'm lucky enough that I have been to 2 world titles in the past for 10 scale off-road. So any questions you have for them, that I will try to answer the best possible, that I can. Last year's world titles in the US, like we recounted just before, was just incredible. The amount of work that they put into the visual side of the event itself, that just about every wall plastered and stickers. Obviously, it's something that we can't replicate in Australia, just for the reason that we don't have those walls to surround the actual track. We don't have, the facade of the front of the building to walk through. But I think at the same time, the fact that it was indoors, as we sort of bring up, it sort of restricted the amount of people that could walk through those doors. A lot of people probably would have walked past and not have a clue the fact that we were having probably one of our, if not our biggest race of the year just inside that building. They would have just walked past. It's a massive shopping center, thousands of people within hundreds of meters of the track. I wouldn't have had a clue that the fact it was going on. I don't think I spoke to a single person that wasn't either a pit mechanic, knew about the racing beforehand, just from the outside in general. So Sydney Hills RC, they have an awesome opportunity to bring it to the actual general sort of public in a lot of ways. It's going to be outdoors. It's going to be at a facility that's not far from football or AFL clubs, cricket clubs, that sort of side of things, that people can just potentially just walk past, stumble upon it. As Pete mentioned before, they're going to do a lot of advertising. And I think a lot of that's going to come back on clubs around the Sydney Hills club as well. Local clubs need to help out with advertising for the event. And I'm not just talking just within the actual RC community, but in general. It'd be really good to see, clubs around Sydney pushing to get people to come and visit and to spread awareness for the actual event. We'd like to see massive crowds, obviously, for the world titles down in Sydney. And we are so far away. I know the preparation's probably already started, and Pete's probably neck deep when it comes to, as he said, phone calls, probably paperwork, that sort of side of things. And the committee has got a massive task upon their head. But it is a long way when it comes to clubs around that can sort of help out in certain other ways. As Pete mentioned as well, there's already people willing to stand up, help out where is possible. People that aren't even going to be driving at the event. Be really good. So actually, yep, Tony, with top 25. Do they have planned yet for a shelter at the track? So I'm gonna cut and repost the chat we've had with both Clive and Pete, at least the sort of main sections later on. But just a bit of a recap. I asked about their say where we're going to pit, where the parking's going to be, and that sort of side of things. And I know a lot of rumors had already been that the fact that they were going to turn what is their current car park into a pit area, and they pretty much clarified that. So they're going to have either 2 large marquees that's going to be converted from their current car park. So pretty much where their current car park is going to have 2 large marquees, and you'll be, say, driving in, dropping your gear off, and then driving back out to where you can find parking. Alternatively, I think Pete mentioned there's going to be shuttle buses. I'm not a huge fan, or not overly sure whether that's going to be directly from hotels or whether it's just going to be from, say, a certain car park area. I'm sure that'll all be announced in time. But as for pitting area, it was pretty clear that Pete was saying that the current small car park next to the track, which, as he mentioned, was about 100 meters long by I think about 30 meters wide last time I was there, will house about 2 large marquees that all drivers will be able to pit underneath. So with that as well, we've seen it in the past where, say, Hoodie Arena, and not bagging out Hoodie Arena by any means, but Hoodie Arena had a strange pit layout where you had certain sections, certain drivers in different areas. You had the X-ray guys in their own little area. And they were sort of tucked away a little bit. You had sort of the Australian team, at least majority of the Australian team, on one big table. And you had like Team Associated and Team Yokomo, like all into these certain areas. The good thing is that with large marquees, you'll just have one massive area of drivers that'll all be able to communicate. And that's one of the biggest things when you go to a world titles. The people that you meet around you will be some of your best mates when you come to after the event. Well, it should be, unless you run into them on track. But yeah, I met Ben when I was over in the US, and a fella from the UK, really nice bloke. And you just get chatting to him throughout the weekend. You introduce yourself. The fact that we're the locals there for this event, you really should be reaching out to the actual people around you and, seeing if they need any help with literally anything. And we're not talking just about the RC car side of things, but, transport, just getting their gear to their car, anything that you can help them out with. We want to show that we can help, we're there to help them. So have a chat to the drivers. Like I said, we are so far out, and this is talking so far into the future, but it's going to creep up on us real quick. And I think the Sydney Hills RC Club know that very well. What else did we have on our discussion? So we just briefly talked about the SP1, I believe it's called. So Ryan obviously announcing that car as a Friday night. It'd be really good to see what they can bring out. Let's see. Oh, last but not least, 900 followers. I know, once again, I brought it up early in this. I brought it up right at the start. Finally cracked over 900 followers. We're up to about 915 already, which is a massive, massive thing for me. If I'm hopeful to be cracking around the 1,000 mark, I guess within the next few months, and be close to that at least. Once you crack over 1,000 followers on Facebook, and a lot of people probably don't understand this, but it opens up a lot more avenues when it comes to spreading your brand, your hobby, that's the side of things. So my plan with that is that I can spread Mitch on the mic and spread the actual hobby itself once we crack over that mark. It just gives you the much more opportunity to advertise to a lot more people without paying money, which is the hardest thing with Facebook. One of the biggest things, and this is a massive recommendation to anyone that's got their own Facebook page, whether it be within RC or just in general, is their reels. Facebook reels have helped so much in the last couple of weeks. So I know that I put up a Facebook reel, I'll see if I can actually bring this one up, of Alex Bernardzik at Logan, from the Logan titles. And to be honest, the actual video itself, the quality of it is horrendous. My phone camera is absolutely shocking at the moment. But it absolutely blew up. And anyone that has, whether it be a small business or anything like that, should 100% be looking into creating as many reels as you can and publishing them on a week-to-week basis if you can. I'll bring up the stats here if I hopefully Streamlabs will let me do it. As a little bit of an insight into, I guess, everything when it comes to this sort of things. Let's see how we go. Okay, so the actual video itself, like I said, in my opinion, it's terrible quality. It's jumpy as hell because my phone camera is absolutely dog crap at the moment. But cracked up to 19 shares and a little bit of insights. Post reach of over almost 12,000 people. It's been viewed by almost 16,000 times, which for our hobby is substantial. So I think it's a good opportunity for, you know, whether you're a driver trying to get exposure for our hobby, even like I said before, if you're just a general business looking to try and spread your business, but within our hobby especially, it's a great opportunity if you're trying to get your name out there, or if you have your own little race pages, you know, we've mentioned in the past, to try and spread yourselves out to get more followers, that sort of things, but also to get the hobby in general to be larger, to put reels up, man. It's massive for potential growth and that sort of things. Like I said, it's got over 16,000 views or something ridiculous, whereas the majority of other reels have cracked that sort of 2,000 to 3,000 mark, which is roughly about standard. But it's just that sort of odd video here and there that seems to just blow up. No reason realistically why. Like I said, the actual video of Alex going around, Alex's lap is an absolute perler of a lap, no doubt about that. But the footage of it is shocking because this bloody phone is really awful at the moment. Nonetheless, it's a good recommendation for anyone sort of trying to build up their little brand, whether it be within the hobby or external to the hobby itself. But yeah, like I mentioned, massive thank you to everyone that sort of jumped on for Mitch on the mic. The live streams, the travels, that sort of side of things wouldn't be probably possible without the support. We got a heap of events coming up this year. I'll run through a couple of the events actually that we're going through. Yeah, Tom's actually messaged me as well. RCRA Nationals in 3 weeks. Is it 3 weeks? I think it's 3 weeks. Yeah, 3 weeks. So 21st to the 24th, guys. 1/8 scale Nationals. If you have not entered this, I know I mentioned it before, but if you have not entered the 8 scale Nationals at Southern Districts Model Motorsports, I believe it is, or Model, I've forgotten it again. I know it's Southern Districts. Model Car Club. So Southern Districts Model Car Club, guys. If you haven't entered already, please head on over and make sure you get your entries in. It is going to be a large event. We're still looking for those entries though. Best not to leave it to last minute, especially with the cutoff times and stuff. You can end up paying a cutoff extra payment, that sort of side of things. So get your entries in if you haven't already. If you are watching back on this later and you haven't done your entry yet, make sure you get your entry in. It's in less than 3 weeks, March 21st to the 24th. At Southern Districts Model Car Club. It's going to be a great event. I'll be down there. That is my next event to go down to. So once again, 21st to 24th, I'll be down there. I'll be rocking the mic the whole time. It's going to be a great event. But we need to see those entries come in. So if you haven't entered already, make sure you get those entries in. Apart from that, April, we've got a couple more events coming up. Tamworth. So we're going to be going down to Tamworth. I still got to finish organizing this side of things. We are going to be heading down to Tamworth, though, for the Tamworth Cup. Now, I'll bring this one up as well, because I'm really looking forward to this one. I'll bring that one up on the screen. Bam. So Tamworth Cup for on-road drivers, anyone that's looking for another big on-road event of the year. Tamworth being obviously a fairly, regional town. Really looking forward to this one though. A decent drive away from where I live in the Gold Coast, but I'm going to be making the trip down there. Going to be driving all the way down. Look forward to the big drive down. But yeah, any interstate drivers or any semi-non-local drivers that are looking to go to what will be a really good fun trophy event for the year, I really highly recommend the Tamworth Cup. I will be calling that one. Still have to sort all the ins and outs of that, but at the moment it's looking very likely that I'll be there for that one. followed the very next week by the Chargers truck race. So once again, we'll flick on over to that. Truck and Outlaw. There we go. So another great event put on by the Chargers committee, in line with their state titles being in June. So really looking forward to the Truck and Outlaw event. As we mentioned before, when we were running through the results for the 10 scale titles, down on overall numbers, we had a decent amount of numbers when it came to stadium truck. It was actually one of the strongest classes throughout the weekend. So it'd be good to see Chargers bring out a whole heap of ex-truck truckers and all that side of things, stadium truck drivers, outlaw truck drivers. We'll see if we can find the info on it. I'm pretty sure it has all been announced. Let's see. Where do I find it? Gone out of it. Typical. Yeah, I'm not sure it has been posted yet as to what the actual schedule of the event will be, but it from what I've been told, is looking like a really, really intriguing and fun event for all races. To, being a Saturday, Sunday event, it sounds like the 2 days is going to be combined points wise. It's virtually going to be two whole and sole separate events combined into the 1 points sort of layout. Plenty of racing. The idea behind it is just loads of racing in between the 2 days. So that is coming up on the 20 and 21st of April. So that's a week after the Tamworth. And then coming into May. So we got two big events that fall on the very same weekend. So on the May from the 24th to 26th. So the event that I'll be over and pretty much helping out with will be the King of the Mountain up at Toowoomba. And I'm really looking forward to that. It's always a good event on the calendar. Big event for 8 scale drivers. I know they're trying to get a couple of 10 scales to have a look at it as well. I'll probably end up taking one of my 10 scales up for a bit of a bang around as well. May as well. 4-wheel drive buggy would be probably a heap of fun at that track. Low grip. You got pin tires out there. So another event that if you're a scale driver looking to have, a bit of fun at what is probably one of the more prestigious but more fun events of the year, really recommend heading up to Toowoomba. A bit of a drive, I'd say, for a lot of people, but, flying to Brisbane, if you're interstate, I'm sure someone will be able to pick you up. Heck, I'll come and pick you up if need be. So if you are available for the 24th to the 26th of May, by all means, 8 scalers, come up to Toowoomba, have a run. Plenty of drinks up there. It is usually a very fun vibe. Same weekend as well for the 10 scalers more so. The Australian Carpet Series is a sort of new thing. I'll quickly bring that up as well. I had a chat with the guys running that not too long ago. It sounds like a really cool series. It sounds like they got a lot planned as long as it's sort of all works out well. I'll bring that one up if I can find it. Here we go. So the Australian Carpet Series, it is very new to Australia. They've got the great MC of Chris Mitchell race calling for that one. So it will not be my event. And I don't have a part of it, but it, something different within Australia. It's something that we haven't really got too much of in Australia, being carpet racing. We were lucky enough in Queensland to have a small indoor track up at Mozzie's RC. Unfortunately, that just didn't have this driver support behind it. So it'd be very interesting to see what's the support we can get with what looks like at least a larger carpet track, larger carpet facility, that sort of side of things. Well, so I'm looking forward to seeing how it all turns out. Like I said, unfortunately for me, at least, it turns out that it's on the very same weekend as King of the Mountain. So good event for 10 scales to head down to Sydney for this one. 8 scalers coming up to Toowoomba. Have a run up to Toowoomba. That's for the next few months. After that, June, Queensland Titles being the 21st to the 23rd of June, just after my birthday. So it's going to be a good weekend. Plenty of drinks for that one, I'm sure. So I'm looking to have probably a bit of a dinner as well. We'll have a dinner on that weekend somewhere. We'll go out for a couple of drinks, probably on the Friday or Saturday night. We'll get all, get loose, have some fun. And that's what RC is about, having a chat with mates and having some fun. Anyway, I've been babbling on for 2 hours, 15 minutes, and far too long for majority of people. A lot of people have already checked out. If you are still here, thank you very much. Got a couple of cool water bottles and stuff. If you are interested in one of them, let me know. I'll try to work out, how much they're going to be. This is only sort of just for me mainly, but if you are really interested, let me know. I've got some other stuff in the works as well, guys. Shirts and hats. Sort of a little bit on the down low at the moment. Anyone listening on at the moment, you can sort of have a bit of a heads up to it. Looking to get some hats up and running probably in the next couple of weeks. I've got some awesome shirts coming out from JSpec. I don't really have pricing on that sort of things at the moment. But pretty much any event that I go to, I'll be trying to bring as much stuff as I can. If anyone wants any of it, come and see me and I'll try to work something out when I'm there. But that's in the sort of near to semi-near future at least. Anyway, guys, I really appreciate everyone for jumping on board. Anyone that's sort of watched in throughout the stream, if you have liked it, shared it, follow it, anything like that, guys, it really does help. We've got some great events coming up this year and some incredible events coming up next year. So really looking forward to everything that our little hobby has to present itself. Oh, too big. Jesus. Has to present itself for the future. No shirts with your face on it. Oh, come on, Lee. That's probably one of the best shirts in the world. Let's be honest here. Probably one of the best shirts in the world. I got my partner to wear it over the weekend. She begged me to wear it, actually. I didn't make her wear it, I promise. She asked me to wear it. I know it's surprising, but she did ask me. Anyone that's wondering who Lee Grace was talking about, I'm sure it's on my Facebook page somewhere. That I think over Christmas I put a post up about my little face shirt. It was actually at the Worlds as well, very popular at the Worlds. But yes, no, that is a special Mitch only shirt. That one, Lee, that one will not be sold. That one is my personal thing. I do actually have some stickers coming out as well, though, and they probably won't be a sale item. I'll probably just hand them out every now and then or something like that. And I will be representing pretty hard on that. My little face popping out all over the place. I want to be able to walk to tracks or go to a track and see my little face on just random parts of the track. Not graffiti, just stickers. All right. Okay, it's special. Yes, Lee, it is very special. Alrighty, guys. I've been babbling on far too long. We are talking way too much smack. Alrighty, I'll put your face on my truck. That's another thing. If I can see a couple of little drivers sticking out of the car, I will add a bonus lap onto your times, sneakily. Nah, I'm only kidding, guys. All right, thank you so much for joining in, guys. I really appreciate everyone for jumping on. All the likes and support and stuff like that. Any new followers, if you're tuning into this, anyone from overseas, from outside of Australia, if you're jumping on to listen for info, I will be cutting the info from when we talk to Clive and Pete about the actual Worlds. I'll be making that into its own video, probably posting that up probably tomorrow or something. It's a bit late right now. Currently using my partner's laptop. Once again, thank you very much, Haley. I'll sort that out probably tomorrow or the next day. So if you are looking for a bit of a recap on just the World segment, I'll cut and paste that, sort that out tomorrow or the next day. No stress on that. Thank you very much, Lee, as well, for jumping on, having a chat as well. Big ups to Pete Cooper and also Clive De Silva. Thanks, guys, for jumping on last minute. Really appreciate you guys coming on for a chat and explaining quite a lot of what there is, I guess, leading up to this event, what is one of the biggest events of our small hobby. The opportunity that we have to hosting this event as well. There is a massive opportunity for Australia, for the racing in general, for our hobby in general within Australia to try and spread awareness to it. So spread it around. Like once more and more info comes around, as Clive said, spread it around. Anyway, guys, thanks for joining in, and we'll see you in the next one. I don't know when the next one will be. I've got a couple of cool guys lined up for interview. I will organize them, a couple of Yank drivers, a couple of US people in general. have a look out, keep an eye out. They're going to be coming out next couple of weeks, I would say. It's not going to be probably as regular to start off with as what it was last year, but they will be popping up every now and then, probably more and more as we get on. Anyway, thank you very much, guys, and we'll see you later.